When dawn broke, bodies lay scattered across the ground, wrapped in white cloth. The mercenaries had been slaughtered brutally. The captain, furious, demanded to know who had done this. The sly man inspected the corpses carefully and concluded that they had all been killed by a single person. Judging by the size and shape of the wounds, the assailant had used either a short sword or daggers. Upon hearing that daggers were involved, the captain recalled the incident at the restaurant, where their perverted member had been brutally injured in a similar manner. Comparing the wounds, there was no longer any doubt. It was Pyo Wool. Enraged, the captain ordered his subordinates to bring Pyo Wool to him immediately. He wanted to interrogate him personally. At the same time, within the 100-flower room, the Amei disciples whispered among themselves in fear. One-eyed Manhwa had been gravely injured, and many others had suffered as well. The memory of the previous clash still haunted them. Seo Ran arrived and commanded them to calm themselves. She ordered the disciples to reinforce the defenses of the 100-flower room, warning that the Qingqing sect might attack again at any moment. She also instructed them to send a messenger pigeon to the main sect immediately, informing them of everything that had happened and requesting reinforcements. The disciples acknowledged her orders and dispersed. Left alone, Seo Ran reflected on the deaths of Bangxian and the Thunder Clan's young leader. These incidents had driven the hostility between the Amei sect and the Qingqing sect completely out of control. Someone was deliberately fanning the flames, and she needed to uncover who was truly behind it. Meanwhile, one-eyed Manhwa lay in bed, receiving treatment for her severe injuries. She muttered curses under her breath, spewing hatred toward the Qingqing sect. The physician warned her to calm down, explaining that her meridians had only just been stabilized. If her emotions continued to flare, the damage could become fatal. Manhwa snapped, threatening to cut off his head if he did not leave at once. Terrified, the physician fled the room. Manhwa clenched her teeth in frustration. If she remained in this weakened state, Seo Ran would seize the initiative. She needed to recover, quickly. Just then the door creaked open. She snarled that she had already told the physician to leave, but the figure who entered was not him. A mysterious person stood there, cloaked in black. He asked quietly if she remembered him. Manhwa sneered and replied that she would never forget him, not for a single moment in the past 7 years. She mocked him, wondering aloud if she would remember even more clearly if he blinded her remaining eye. At those words, memory surged back. 7 years ago. The incident. The eye she lost. The man removed his hood. His red eyes glowed coldly. Pyo Wool. Jianhwa's eyes widened in disbelief. She had been certain he was dead. The saint of martial justice himself had thrown him into the snake pit. No one could survive that. Pyo Wool replied calmly that he had indeed been thrown in. And now, he said, it's time for me to throw you down. He revealed the truth without hesitation. He was the one who killed her disciple and the Thunder Clan's young leader. Manhwa flew into a rage. Blood streamed from her eye as she screamed, asking if he truly believed he could survive after making an enemy of the Amei sect. Was he not afraid at all? Pyo Wool's voice was ice cold. You made me this way, he said. Didn't you? Without the Amei sect, I would never have been reborn as an assassin. To him, they were his creators. Manhwa demanded to know what he wanted. I want nothing, Pyo Wool replied. I only came to tell you what will happen next. He told her that today Chongyang, the head disciple of the Qingqing sect, would die. And he would be killed by one of the Amei sect's ultimate techniques. Snow Cloud Piercing Strike, the very technique used by Seo Ran, the youngest leading disciple of Amei. Jianhwa's rage exploded. Her meridians ruptured violently, blood pouring from her eyes and mouth. She forced herself upright through sheer will, her body wrapped in blood-soaked bandages. She swore she would kill him. Pyo Wool merely smiled. If I die, he said, the kings, the sects, everyone, will spill each other's blood. The monsters hiding in the mountains will awaken. Even the saint of martial justice will pay the price. Manhwa reached out desperately, trying to grab him, but it was too late. I will drag them all out, Pyo Wool said softly. No matter where they hide. And I will devour everything, like a snake. Her strength failed her. Her meridians completely collapsed. One-eyed Manhwa died of internal injuries, cursing him until her final breath. Pyo Wool looked down at her lifeless body and spoke quietly. You should never have created something like me. Someone as horrifying as I should never have been born. Elsewhere, Hyo Ranju burst into the room where Pyo Wool had been staying, accompanied by 2 of her companions. They had come to capture him, but the room was empty. The surveillance they had set up confirmed that Pyo Wool had not returned since the previous night. Hyo Ranju sighed and facepalmed. She cursed herself for being foolish enough to fall for his looks and swore that if she ever met him again, she would skin him alive. The three of them wondered where he had gone, what he was doing now, and whether he was causing trouble yet again. At the Golden Heaven clan compound, Qingqing sect disciples patrolled the area restlessly. They spoke in hushed tones about how long they would be forced to remain on high alert, as everyone was uneasy knowing an assassin was roaming freely, killing people at will. One disciple angrily snapped at another, telling him not to speak of such things. It was bad luck. At that moment, a distant sound echoed through the air. A violent explosion erupted from one of the buildings. They instantly recognized the martial art used. Snow cloud-piercing strike. Believing the Amei sect had infiltrated the area, the disciples rushed toward the source, calling out for their senior brother. But it was already too late. Moments earlier, the head disciple of the Qingqing sect, Chang Yob, had been meditating quietly in his room. As he opened his eyes, he froze. A black hooded figure was sitting calmly across from him. Chang Yob demanded to know who he was. The hooded man replied simply, Pyo Wool. The name struck Chang Yob like a blade. He remembered hearing it from the Hao clan. Narrowing his eyes, he asked why Pyo Wool had come in the middle of the night. Pyo Wool replied casually that anyone who visits at such an hour is rarely up to any good, and that applied to him as well. Chang Yob then asked the question that had been gnawing at him. Are you the one who killed the Thunder Clan's young leader? Yes, Pyo Wool answered without hesitation. Chang Yob pressed further, asking why, and whether Pyo Wool bore a grudge against the Qingqing sect. I bear grudges against both the Qingqing sect and the Amei sect, Pyo Wool replied. From that answer alone, Chang Yob deduced the truth. You also killed the Amei sect's disciple. He frowned. He had never heard of Pyo Wool before and demanded to know who he truly was. I am an assassin, Pyo Wool said coldly. The Amei sect made me one. The Qingqing sect made me a public enemy of Sichuan. Chang Yob's eyes widened in shock. The incident from 7 years ago, the one who killed Wu Gunsang? Yes, Pyo Wool replied, his voice chilling as he removed his hood. His red eyes glowed ominously in the darkness. Chang Yob drew his sword, his aura surging like a crane spreading its wings. He declared that Pyo Wool had made a fatal mistake by revealing himself and that he would end his life here and now. Pyo Wool only smiled at the man's ignorance and hollow bravado. Chang Yob charged. But before his strike could land, Pyo Wool's daggers were already moving, encircling him like predators. Invisible chi threads snapped tight, suspending Chang Yob in midair. Unable to move, Chang Yob watched in horror as Pyo Wool finished him using Amei sect martial arts. Send my regards to Zhonghua, Pyo Wool said quietly. In that moment, Chang Yob understood everything. Zhonghua was dead. The plan was complete. With his final breath, Chang Yob whispered, We created a monster. The Qingqing disciples arrived too late, calling out his name in despair. Finding his corpse, their fury boiled over. They placed all the blame on the Amei sect, their hatred deepening beyond repair. From the shadows, Pyo Wool observed silently. His revenge was nearing completion. Once a reason appeared, it took only an instant for mass bloodshed to erupt. People killed each other day and night, endlessly without pause. At first, there were whispers, suspicions that someone might be manipulating events from behind the scenes. But those doubts quickly vanished. No one cared anymore. They fought like dogs and cats, driven by hatred and fear. All that mattered was killing the enemy standing right in front of them. Blood soaked the streets. Amidst this carnage, Yong Seo Ran walked through the chaos, her steps heavy. She let out a quiet sigh, thinking that this truly was hell on earth. She couldn't understand how things had spiraled into this nightmare so quickly. Lady Yong. She turned. It was Zhang Muriang. He told her he had information about the recent killings and about a man named Pyo Wool. The moment she heard that name, her breath caught. She remembered the assassin she had encountered in that cave years ago. She remembered asking his name. Was the same. Realization struck her like lightning. The scene shifted to Mount Amei. The Amei sect's abbess slammed her palm onto the table, the sound echoing through the hall. Tears streamed down her face as she learned of One-Eye Jianghua's death. Rage twisted her expression as she screamed the name. Pyo Wool. She demanded to know if he truly was the assassin from 7 years ago, if he was the one now driving both sects into mutual destruction. The woman delivering the report bowed her head and replied that this was what Lady Yong believed. The abbess clenched her fists. She couldn't comprehend how he could have learned Amei's techniques. The messenger hesitated, then explained that one of the slain Ame disciples had secretly carried a copy of a sect manual with her at all times, and that Pyo-woo may have learned the technique from it. The abbess exploded with fury. Why would anyone carry a secret manual so carelessly? She knew the Qingqing sect would never accept such an explanation. This bloodshed would not end with words. Rising to her feet, her eyes burning with cold resolve, she declared that she would personally capture the assassin and punish him for daring to mock the great Ame sect. Later, on Smithy Street in the Fire Dragon Room district, chaos erupted once more. Shouts echoed as Pebble brutally crushed the arms of several men. They were thugs, ones who had been harassing Tang Sochu for days. Tang Sochu lay on the ground, badly injured, blood pooling beneath him. Pebble snarled, cursing those sons of bitches, and asked Tang Sochu how he wanted to deal with them. Tang Sochu's eyes were bloodshot as he laughed weakly. "Do whatever you want," he said. "Just kill them. Kill all of them." Like a grim reaper receiving permission, Pebble nodded. One by one he slaughtered them. Those who had mocked Tang Sochu were now breathing their last. Pyo-woo stood nearby, watching silently. "This is your choice," he said calmly. "Look closely." At his command, daggers took flight, dancing through the air like living things, slicing through flesh without mercy. Smithy Street became a field of corpses. Tang Sochu laughed like a madman as he staggered to his feet, following Pebble through the carnage. When it was over, not a single enemy remained alive. Pyo-woo turned to Tang Sochu. "This is the weapon you made." Tang Sochu stared at the carnage in awe. "It's incredible, truly incredible," he muttered. "I never imagined something I created could unleash this kind of power." He laughed again, wild and unhinged. "Thanks to you I got my revenge," he said, then looked at Pyo-woo with a crooked grin. "You need my help now, right? So tell me, how should I help you?" Pyo-woo smiled. A man could be seen running desperately for his life. He was the leader of the Thunder Clan, who had been staying under the protection of the Qingqing sect. Behind him, like a divine executioner descending from the heavens, was Mu Zhong, the saint of martial justice. There was no escape. Mu Zhong caught up to him in an instant. His blade flashed, and the Thunder Clan leader's head was severed cleanly from his body, rolling across the ground as blood sprayed into the air. Mu Zhong stood there, trembling with rage. The news of Chong Yob's death had driven him beyond reason. Moments later, the Qingqing sect leader rushed over, his expression filled with shock and alarm. "Mu Zhong, why would you kill the Thunder Clan leader?" Mu Zhong turned on him, his killing intent erupting like a storm. "Anyone connected to the death of our disciple will not be forgiven," he roared. "It was because of this man's son that Chong Yob went to investigate, and because of that, he was killed." The sect leader took an involuntary step back. Mu Zhong's murderous aura was overwhelming, suffocating. He looked at Mu Zhong with deep concern, wondering what had truly happened in that underground cave 7 years ago. What could have changed him so drastically? Mu Zhong spoke again, his voice cold and resolute. "I will not stay silent anymore." He turned to leave. "I'm going to the city, to confront the Ame sect. But before that, I'll visit Gunsang's father, who lives in seclusion." With that, Mu Zhong leapt into the air and vanished. The Qingqing sect leader clenched his fists. If both of them start moving, the consequences will be disastrous. He immediately summoned the Justice Hall leader. "Investigate everything that's happening," he ordered grimly. "And if necessary, use force to subdue Mu Zhong." In the city, unrest simmered everywhere. People gathered in the streets, shouting angrily about the exorbitant prices at the inns, which had skyrocketed overnight. Yet no one dared to leave. The roads were far too dangerous now. "This is all the Ame sect's fault," one man spat. Another hurriedly grabbed his sleeve. "Lower your voice. If someone hears you, we'll be in serious trouble." Fear ruled the city. In a quiet room nearby, Pyo-woo sat calmly, reading through detailed information about the Black Cloud Corps, a notorious mercenary group. He now knew the captain's name. And the captain's most trusted subordinates were the same 3 men he had encountered before. He nodded in satisfaction, silently praising the house sect for their efficiency. Behind him, through the window, half the city burned, flames rising into the night sky as people slaughtered one another in endless conflict. Pyo-woo stared at the fire. How many people are still dying because of this war? He wondered briefly. Should he feel guilt? No. All guilt had been buried in that cave long ago. Now only repayment remained. The Ame sect. The Qingqing sect. They had created this monster. They had made him, and countless others, suffer for nothing. He would not rest until they paid for it. even if, in the end, his own life was consumed by those same flames. In the 100-Flower Hall, chaos reigned. Injured disciples were carried in on stretchers one after another. Blood stained the floors as healers rushed to treat the wounded. At the center of it all stood Yong Seo-ran, calmly organizing everything, issuing orders without hesitation. The Black Cloud Corps captain, watching from nearby, couldn't help but admire her. A once-in-a-century talent, he thought. Since Jianhua's death, she had taken control of all major affairs. The Amei sect had hidden her brilliance for far too long. As they spoke, a sudden pressure descended upon the hall. An overwhelming aura, heavy, suffocating, filled with rage. Everyone froze. The abbess of the Amei sect had arrived. Anger burned in her eyes. And with her appearance, the chaos that gripped the world was about to escalate even further. The moment Abbess Gu Hua, the leader of the Amei sect, stepped inside, every disciple dropped to their knees in unison. Greetings to the abbess. The Black Cloud Corps captain and his sly companion also bowed deeply, followed by Yong Seo-ran, her head lowered in respect. The abbess did not respond. She simply stared at them, cold, sharp, and merciless. Footsteps echoed as someone came running in. It was Wai Sionha from the 100-Flower Hall. She rushed forward with her usual bright smile and bowed cheerfully. Abbess. Gu Hua's gaze cut into her like a blade. The smile vanished instantly. In a voice devoid of warmth, the abbess finally spoke. Everyone go inside. Her eyes shifted to the mercenary. You too. Seated at the head position inside the hall, Gu Hua rested her chin lightly on her hand. Who is Pyo Wool? Her gaze flicked toward Wai Sionha. You seem to have something to say. Wai Sionha flinched. The abbess leaned forward slightly. Do you know who he is? And how are you related to him? Wai Sionha's lips trembled. Words refused to come out properly. Gu Hua rose. She gripped Wai Sionha's face and pulled her close, their eyes inches apart. Answer me, she whispered coldly. And do not lie. Her voice suddenly dropped, terrifyingly sharp. Why did you become restless the moment his name was mentioned? Wai Sionha broke. Tears streamed down her face as she collapsed to her knees. I didn't know it would turn out like this, she sobbed. I only wanted to use him. I never thought things would spiral out of control. Please, let me fix this. I'll capture him myself. I'll clean everything up. She begged, her voice cracking, eyes filled with desperation. Gu Hua listened quietly. Then she spoke. Pathetic girl. She placed her hand atop Wai Sionha's head. Who gave you the authority to kill the Thunder Clan's young leader? You were meant to live quietly, like a flower among men. As you always have. Hope flickered briefly in Wai Sionha's eyes. A mistake. Nearby, Seo-ran sensed it. Master, stop. Too late. Gu Hua's chi surged. A silent, devastating force passed through Wai Sionha's skull. Her body went limp instantly. She died without even understanding what had happened. A chill ran through everyone present. False hope shattered completely. Wai Sionha's ambition, to one day seize the position of Amei's leader, had ended at the hands of the very person who held it. Seo-ran screamed in fury. You didn't have to go that far. Her massive aura erupted as she faced the abbess, rage pouring out unchecked. She didn't do it on purpose. Killing her for this was unnecessary. Gu Hua smiled. So, she said calmly, you're finally showing your true colors. She turned away slightly. Learn this well. Leaders must make examples of people, so others never dare to repeat their mistakes. Her gaze sharpened. You'll understand when you rise higher. Until then, stop acting like a child. She waved her hand dismissively. Remove that body. Get it out of my sight. Then coldly. The 100-Flower Hall originated from the same roots as Amei. From today onward, it will be absorbed back into the sect. Seo-ran clenched her teeth until they bled. Powerless. She turned and stormed out. Gu Hua looked toward the mercenary captain. Captain Zhang, she ordered, mobilize your men. I want Pyo Wool hunted down. Later that night, deep within a dark forest, two figures hurriedly dragged a body wrapped in cloth. They dumped it carelessly onto the wet ground. For the dogs, one muttered. They left without looking back. Rain began to fall, quiet, relentless. Footsteps approached. A figure knelt beside the body and slowly uncovered the face. It was Pyo Wool. His expression did not change. He buried her with his own hands, then placed a simple stone at the grave. He sat beside it in silence. Finally he spoke. I won't apologize, he said softly. We were only using each other. The rain soaked into the earth. But I will avenge you. He looked down at the grave. I swear, those who did this to you will pay. He remained there, unmoving as the rain poured down. He had no true bond with her. Yet in death, she received more empathy from him than she ever had from her own sect. It was a cold night, and it ended in silence. Later that night, Pyo-woo stood alone in an abandoned area near an old well. Broken stone and shattered tiles littered the ground. His flying daggers moved on their own, circling, darting, and striking invisible targets with terrifying precision. Each flick of his fingers altered their trajectory, silent, lethal. He was preparing for the battle to come. Then, footsteps. Pyo-woo stopped. From the shadows, a familiar voice rang out. Hey! Ho Runju stepped forward, waving her hand casually as if greeting an old friend. Pyo-woo turned his head slightly. What do you want? He asked coldly. Bringing people with you? Two figures emerged behind her. The sly man smiled faintly, while the bald monk let out a booming laugh. To notice us despite hiding our presence, the monk said, you truly live up to your reputation. Runju crossed her arms. This is the last time I'll ask, she said. Join the Black Cloud Corps. Pyo-woo's eyes remained calm. And if I refuse? Her expression hardened instantly. Then we follow our client's request, she replied coldly. And kill you. The monk stepped forward aggressively. If you want to live, accept the offer. Enough, the sly man cut in, raising a hand. We're not here to kill anyone. Pyo-woo glanced at him. Then will you retract the mission? The sly man chuckled. No. Just hide yourself better than you are now. He continued casually. We've already told the Amei sect that you were killed by us. This is just cleanup. Pyo-woo's gaze sharpened. You betray your client that easily? Credibility is everything to a vagrant group. The sly man burst out laughing. That kind of thinking is outdated, he said. Especially in Chengdu right now. Besides, I don't dislike you. He tilted his head. Join us. Pyo-woo replied without hesitation. No. An assassin without credibility was nothing. Runju narrowed her eyes. An assassin talking about credibility. That meant he was already hired. Who would that be? Pyo-woo said nothing. His mind drifted. To fallen comrades. To Lee Sealman's final moments. To the terror, helplessness, and crushing despair she felt as her life faded away. I want them to feel the same. Runju's eyes widened suddenly. A woman, she shouted. That's your client, isn't it? It has to be. The sly man smirked. He's more sentimental than he looks. Runju snapped. How many times are you going to reject me? She screamed, pulling out her whip. What kind of woman is she? She charged. The whip cracked through the air. And missed. Pyo-woo didn't even move. Instead, the roof of the well shattered, fragments exploding outward like shrapnel. The debris slammed into Runju, sending her flying back, blood spraying. Her men caught her hurriedly. Where did he go? She yelled furiously. A calm voice answered from behind. I told you, said the Black Cloud Corps captain, stepping forward. Talking to him is pointless. He pointed upward. Look. Atop the broken roof, silhouetted against the night sky, Pyo-woo stood, black hood fluttering in the wind. The captain raised his hand. Kill him. Several men leapt forward. But it was already over. The flying daggers moved. A single flick of Pyo-woo's fingers. And bodies fell. Throats sliced. Limbs severed. Blood splattered the ground. In seconds, everyone who attacked lay dead. Silence returned. Pyo-woo looked down at the captain. You brought a lot of people, he said calmly, to kill one man. The captain smiled grimly. I was wondering if I should have brought more. Behind him, hundreds of Black Cloud Corps members revealed themselves, weapons drawn, waiting for a single command. Pyo-woo's aura surged. The air trembled. You'll regret this, he warned coldly. You should never have involved yourselves in my war. The daggers spun faster, circling him like predatory spirits. The battlefield was set. The battle was about to begin. People were chatting casually at an open restaurant when, suddenly, an explosion erupted from the rooftop above. Panic spread instantly. A man could be seen leading a group across the roofs, though in truth it was Pyo-woo being chased by mercenaries. Pyo-woo glanced down at the restaurant. In an instant he leapt down and knocked out several people. The ordinary civilians were stunned and furious, shouting at him, demanding to know why he was attacking them. Pyo-woo ignored them and struck a few more, deliberately provoking their anger. A crowd quickly gathered. Just then the mercenaries chasing Pyo-woo arrived. Seeing them together, the crowd assumed they were allies and angrily demanded to know who they were. The sly man immediately realized something had gone terribly wrong. The public now believed they were working with Pyo-woo. Pyo-woo turned back, gave them a sly smile and ran again. The enraged crowd refused to let the mercenaries pass. Seeing this, the blood monk stepped forward and told his companions to continue chasing Pyo-woo. He would handle the situation there himself. They abandoned him to face the furious mob. Elsewhere, the sects continued fighting as Chengdu burned. Flames lit the sky, screams echoed through the streets and chaos reigned. Captain Zhang watched in disbelief. "How can one assassin fool the entirety of Chengdu?" he shouted, glaring at Pyo-woo. "Do you even understand what you're doing right now?" Pyo-woo stood calmly, staring at the burning city. "Is everyone out there?" he asked quietly. "Even those who were hiding?" He paused, then smirked. "The results are a bit different from what I expected, but they're better than I imagined. Thanks to you." He spread his arms slightly. "The battlefield is about to become even more beautiful." Runju lashed out in rage, cracking her whip toward him. Pyo-woo dodged effortlessly and leapt into the air. The sly man, Taoist Go, unleashed a sword strike, aiming to catch Pyo-woo midair. But invisible chi threads surrounded him. Pyo-woo stepped onto them as if standing on solid ground, manipulating his flying daggers freely. Taoist Go was shocked as countless daggers encircled him. He struggled desperately to block them, wondering how they could move with such autonomy. Pyo-woo stood calmly. With a single trigger, a dagger shot from Taoist Go's blind spot and severed his arm instantly. He screamed in unbearable pain. "Go!" Runju cried out. Before she could reach him, daggers slashed across her body. She screamed as well, unable to even see the blades. They were simply too fast. She watched in horror as Taoist Go collapsed to his knees before Pyo-woo. "No!" she screamed. Pyo-woo stared at the one-armed man without a shred of emotion. Then Captain Zhang stepped forward, gripping his long spear. "Stop!" he roared, hurling the spear toward Pyo-woo. Pyo-woo could have dodged easily. Instead, he grabbed Taoist Go and used him as a human shield. The spear pierced straight through Taoist Go's body. Everyone froze. "No!" they screamed. Pyo-woo tossed the lifeless body aside, glanced back once and disappeared. Runju rushed forward, clutching Taoist Go's body, sobbing desperately. "Don't die, wake up, please." But it was too late. Even in his final breath, Taoist Go weakly smiled and whispered, "Don't say unlucky things. I'm not going to die." His life faded. Runju screamed in grief, clutching his body, then turned toward Captain Zhang with bloodshot eyes. "Catch that bastard," she cried. "Shred him to pieces." Captain Zhang's fury reached its peak. Without another word, he set off in pursuit. Runju remained behind, holding Taoist Go's corpse, crying uncontrollably. These were the consequences of their own choices. The city was burning. From atop a cliff, Abbess Guwa gazed down at the raging inferno and exclaimed at the madness of the sight before her. Beside her, Xiaoran spoke urgently. "Master, we must rescue our allies of the Qingming sect and stabilize the situation immediately." The abbess nodded. She raised her hand and issued her command. "All Ame disciples, descend at once. Advance into the fire dragon room. They are attacking the Qingming sect." At her order, the disciples leapt down like falling stars and charged into the chaos. Inside the fire dragon room, the sect leader received the report and turned pale. "The Ame sect is coming? If they intervene now, we'll be at a severe disadvantage." Before he could issue new orders, a terrifying aura swept through the area. With a single step, Abbess Guwa arrived, tearing down the gates with overwhelming force. The fire dragon room leader stared at her in horror. "Wh?" Her eyes flashed coldly. "How dare you call me that?" The leader swallowed hard and forced himself to speak. "This is a matter between us and the Qingming sect. The Ame sect has no right to interfere." Guwa scoffed. "Everyone knows that the Qingming sect and the Ame sect share the same roots. Do you take me for a fool?" She raised her hand. "Be silent," she charged. The leader barely managed to block her attack, but he was utterly overmatched. Blow after blow crushed his defenses, forcing him back helplessly. Just as Guwa prepared to land the final strike, clang! A massive sword intercepted her attack. Guwa's eyes widened in surprise. She looked up and recognized the man standing before her. It's been a long time, she said slowly. Sage Muzhong of the Qingqing sect. Muzhong stood tall, his aura overflowing, surpassing even the abbess's martial presence. I too am glad to see you, he replied. Though it seems the feeling isn't mutual. She frowned. Muzhong continued, his voice steady yet heavy with emotion. I waited 7 long years for this meeting. Had my senior brothers not rejected the proposal to obliterate the Amei sect, we would have met much earlier. His aura surged. Guhua felt it instantly. You've attained enlightenment, she muttered. This energy, it's something I've never felt before. Muzhong nodded calmly. A new martial art. She studied him carefully. I am familiar with all of Qingqing's techniques. I never imagined your sect had a martial art that exudes such impure and ominous energy. Muzhong snorted. Do not measure the Qingqing sect by your narrow standards. Our foundation is far deeper and vaster than the Amei sect. Guhua laughed. So vast that even a mere assassin managed to make fools of you? Muzhong's expression darkened. Assassin? What do you mean? The assassin you threw into the underground cave, Guhua replied coldly. He's still alive. Muzhong stiffened. That's impossible. He's dead. Did you check his corpse? She asked. Silence. Guhua laughed again. See? Neither you nor your people confirmed it. That negligence is why the world burns now. Muzhong recalled the red eyes staring back at him in that cave. Is he truly alive? He is the main culprit, Guhua said. He killed the Thunder Clan's young leader and ignited this chaos. The one who killed Zhonghua of my sect and Chang Yob of yours, it was him. Muzhong spoke slowly. You're saying we're being manipulated by a single assassin? That's right, Guhua replied. So let us eliminate him first. There's no telling what he's plotting even now. Muzhong's aura flared violently. I refuse. The air trembled. The one who ordered that assassination is standing right in front of me, he said coldly. How could I miss such a golden opportunity? He raised his sword and shouted. 7 swords of Yinjiang. Aid the fire dragon room and drive away these wicked Amei witches. At his command, 7 sword masters descended beside him. Total war erupted. Guhua sighed calmly. You are as stubborn as ever. I offered the simplest path, yet you chose the hardest one. Muzhong sneered. Pray for repentance with your death, old crone. Their gazes clashed. Their auras collided, shaking the battlefield. Far away, Pyo-Wul sprinted through the city, mercenaries close behind him. Suddenly he felt the terrifying collision of energies erupting nearby. He stopped. A slow smile spread across his face. So, the main players have finally arrived. His red eyes gleamed. The final act had begun. The chase had reached the outer gates. The mercenaries thundered forward on horseback, yet they were still falling behind. Ahead of them, Pyo-Wul seemed to fly, stepping on invisible threads of chi in midair, his movements defying logic. The captain's eyes widened. Even on horseback, we can't catch him? He clenched his jaw, watching Pyo-Wul leap from thread to thread. So he really is forming chi threads and stepping on them? Rage burned in his chest. No matter what method he uses, he swore, I'll catch him. And I'll kill him. Memories surfaced, his childhood, fighting in filthy streets, half dead from hunger and wounds. Taoist Go had appeared then. He had lifted him up, trained him, shaped him into the man he was today. A teacher. A savior. And now, Pyo-Wul had killed him. Attack him, the captain roared. Spears flew through the air like rain. Pyo-Wul suddenly ran straight toward them. The mercenaries faltered in shock. In the next instant, heads flew. Steel flashed, blood sprayed, and bodies toppled as if sliced by an invisible blade. The counterattack was instant and merciless. Men fell from their horses before they could even scream. The captain stared in horror. It was like watching a snake constrict its prey, slowly crushing everything in its path. Soon, corpses and fallen horses littered the ground. Pyo-Wul stood amid them, completely surrounded by the remaining mercenaries. The captain pointed his weapon at him, trembling with fury. I'll kill you with my own hands. Pyo-Wul tilted his head. I don't understand. The captain snarled. What? Pyo-Wul spoke calmly. Isn't this how everyone lives? Isn't this what the Jianghu is like? He gestured around them. You. The Qingqing sect. The Ame sect. You all kill people endlessly. How are you any different from me? His eyes narrowed. How many sacrifices do you think the Qingqing and Ame sects made to earn their reputations? He turned to the captain. And you, how do you think a vagrant organization this large survives? You must have killed 10 times the number of people standing here now. He paused, then smiled faintly. I merely created an opportunity. Pyo-woo closed his eyes. When he opened them, more heads fell from the horsemen encircling him. He continued coldly. Isn't the reason things have reached this point your greed and ambition? The captain ground his teeth. You're insane. Pyo-woo's daggers began to shine brighter than ever, circling him like stars. The captain frowned. Why would an assassin openly reveal his weapons? Suddenly, a massive surge of energy erupted from the wall behind them. The captain turned sharply. His heart sank. One of them, that aura, Abyss Guwa. And another. On the same level? High above, Abyss Guwa and Sage Mujong were locked in battle, their auras colliding violently. Then, a single gleaming dagger flew between them. Both stopped. Their eyes followed it down. Below, amid the sea of corpses, stood a black-hooded figure. Xiao-Ran's breath caught. That assassin. Her eyes widened. Pyo-woo, from 7 years ago. Mujong's pupils shrank. It's really you. Rage exploded from him. You're still alive? His roar carried terrifying power, forcing warriors nearby to clutch their ears in pain. Mujong leapt from the wall, sword blazing, descending like a falling star. I'll finish what I failed to do 7 years ago. Pyo-woo looked up. Calm. Unfazed. A smile curved his lips. Everyone's finally gathered. Pyo-woo ran into an abandoned mansion with the Ame sect, Qingqing sect, and the mercenaries chasing him together. Sage Mujong shouted furiously. Bastard. How long do you intend to keep running away? Xiao-Ran sensed something was wrong and urgently called out. Master, stop. We're playing right into Pyo-woo's hands. But the old hag snapped back angrily. Shut up. Don't speak another word. Her frustration boiled over. The Sage Mujong. She had no idea what kind of martial art he had learned, yet he had overwhelmed her in an instant. And now that assassin brat was acting so arrogantly right in front of her. Just looking at him was unbearable. If I let him live, she thought, death will follow him wherever he goes, and the already crumbling reputation of the Ame sect will be completely destroyed. Although it lasted only a moment, she could not believe she had been pushed back, forced to chase after a mere fly. I must kill that assassin brat quickly, she decided, and then have a real fight with Sage Mujong. That was what she was thinking as she chased Pyo-woo. Suddenly, a barrage of arrows rained down. Several disciples were struck and fell instantly. Hidden weapons, the disciples shouted. There are traps. The horsemen dismounted at once. What place is this? Someone asked. They had entered an old, abandoned estate filled with countless buildings, but it was no ordinary ruin. The old hag's expression darkened. He led us to the Tang clan estate. Mujong roared. How dare you lead us into this filthy hole? Show yourself at once. At that moment, Pyo-woo appeared, standing atop a roof looking down at them all. His red eyes glowed beneath his hood. Mujong glared up at him, cursing. The abbess also shouted angrily. What are you planning, bastard? Pyo-woo's mind drifted back 7 years, to the net they had once used to capture assassins. He spoke calmly. Etch this into your eyes. This is an inescapable heavenly net trap. An overconfident Qingqing warrior stepped forward, pointing at him. Demon. I'll take your head. He leapt from one rooftop to another, and the moment his foot landed, the trap activated. Daggers exploded into the air. He blocked one, then another. But there were too many. More daggers followed, their trajectories impossible to predict. One pierced his leg. Another stabbed into his back. In an instant, the man who rushed forward so arrogantly fell just as quickly. He crashed down dead. Panic spread through the disciples. How can there be so many hidden weapons in just a few steps? Only then did they realize. This was the Tang clan estate, and none of them understood it. Because this place had been prepared by Pyo-woo and Tang Sochu together. The hidden weapons. The extreme poisons. This place was far too dangerous. Fear became visible on their faces. Do we really have to fight him here? Some began to retreat. Just as one disciple stepped back, Xiao-Ran shouted, Wait. Too late. Another barrage of arrows flew out. The disciple was struck and died instantly along with several others. "Fall back," someone shouted. But it was already too late. Some disciples ran desperately for help, only to trigger another trap. Poison gas burst forth. They began choking, blood leaking from their mouths and noses. It was total annihilation. Then, a swarm of snakes surged out from hidden corners. "Help!" Their screams echoed through the estate. The abbess watched coldly and sneered. "Come down this instant, Pyo-wul. I'll rip your damned head off myself." From atop the roof, Pyo-wul smiled faintly. "Wait. The best is saved for last." Seeing the chaos unfold, Sage Mujang stood in silence. Then he released his energy. The venomous snakes nearby were instantly obliterated. He glared at Pyo-wul and shouted, "So it was you who clipped the wings of the Qingqing sect. You will pay for it with your life." Pyo-wul replied coldly, "Pay with my life? Didn't you already make me pay 7 years ago?" His red eyes burned. "I have no more debts in this rotten world. All that remains is to collect." With that, Pyo-wul leapt from the wall and attacked. Mujang snorted. "Petty tricks." He swung his broadsword, but Pyo-wul was already behind him, flying daggers flashing through the air. Mujang released his impure energy and struck backward, slicing through what he thought was Pyo-wul, only to realize it was merely his cloak. Pyo-wul stood several steps away, his face now fully revealed. "You've changed," Mujang said. "All except those eyes." Pyo-wul answered, "You're still the same. Except for yours." The battlefield fell silent. "I won't let you escape this time," Mujang growled. He charged forward, sword slashing down with tremendous force. The ground trembled. Pyo-wul dodged effortlessly, weaving through every strike while his daggers surged forward like shadows. Mujang blocked and laughed. "Not bad. You're no longer an ordinary assassin." They clashed again and again. Mujang's excitement grew. What kind of 7 years did he spend? His techniques were sharper than any martial master in Sichuan. It had been a long time since he wanted victory this badly. He steadied his breath, then lowered his sword into the ground. "All right," he said calmly. His energy erupted at full power. "Let's see if you can dodge this." He rushed forward and unleashed a 13th Azure Cloud Cleave, a brutal downward slash meant to split Pyo-wul in two. "He won't escape unscathed," Mujang thought, smiling. But the smile froze. Pyo-wul bled, only slightly. He caught the blade between 2 fingers. The battlefield went silent. Mujang's eyes widened in shock. With a cracking sound, Pyo-wul activated the starving demon saber secret art, Jade Destruction. The legendary sword, passed down for generations, never once damaged, shattered into pieces, leaving only the hilt. Mujang stared in disbelief. "How did you?" Before he could finish, something pierced him from behind. Blood spilled. "Abbess." "Guwa," Mujang gasped as he collapsed. The old hag smiled coldly. "You did great, Sage Mujang," she said, "but now I will finish him." Her mask fell away, revealing her true, ugly nature, the real face of the so-called righteous Amei sect leader, smiling proudly as she took her place. Sage Mujang bled heavily, yet he still struggled to stand. Gritting his teeth, he glared at the old hag. "Cowardly bitch, you actually struck me from behind?" She smirked. "So what if I did?" Her laughter rang cold across the battlefield. "Don't you know this already? The Jianghu only recognizes the victor. If you couldn't dodge or block my attack, blame yourself." Blood spilled from Mujang's mouth as he spoke again, his voice shaking. "You are the leader of the Amei sect. Aren't you ashamed to do this in front of everyone?" Silence fell. All eyes were fixed on them. Every disciple had clearly seen it. The Amei abbess stabbing the sage of Qingqing from behind. Yet the shameless old hag only laughed louder. "They saw only one thing today," she said arrogantly. The moment the Amei sect became the final victor and began its rule over Sichuan. Her eyes turned cruel. "And even if they saw something else, they'll only be able to speak of it in the afterworld." Mujang roared in fury. "Demoness, do you truly believe the Amei sect will endure? It is already weakening, and it's because of you." She ignored him completely. "Are you done talking?" she asked casually. Her staff pierced him again. "Worry about the Qingqing sect instead," she sneered. "The Amei sect I will build will last forever." She charged forward once more. "The Qingqing sect has lost its pillar, Sage Mujang," she declared. "It will collapse pathetically." With a violent thud, Mujang fell to the ground. Lifeless. "Master." The Qingqing disciples screamed in disbelief. How did this happen? The old hag snorted and slowly turned her gaze toward the man still standing. She glared at Pyo Wul. To a certain extent, she said, I should thank you. Though you caused quite a disturbance, it was thanks to your actions that such an unthinkable opportunity presented itself. Pyo Wul stared at her coldly. She smiled. As thanks, I will grant you pain you won't forget, even in death. Now only the two of them remained, facing each other. If not for your greedy ambitions, Pyo Wul said quietly, I would have lived as a normal man wandering the world. His voice hardened. I truly wanted that life. His daggers began to swirl. But your greed turned me into an assassin. He stepped forward, one step at a time. Look at me, he said. Look at the monster you created. They clashed. Flying daggers versus the abyss's staff. How proud you must be, Pyo Wul continued coldly, striking again. At how well your monster turned out. She defended fiercely, counterattacking without pause. Pyo Wul staggered slightly under her pressure, but then surged forward and struck her staff directly. A violent explosion of energy erupted. Shock spread across every remaining witness. The old hag steadied herself and smiled. At your level, you have no chance of victory. She swung again, golden rampant strike, a blinding flash tearing through the air. Pyo Wul stood firm. Then he vanished. The daggers remained. One blade passed her cheek. Then dozens more filled the sky. The old hag slammed her staff into the ground, releasing a massive shockwave that froze every dagger midair. She laughed. Is that all you're capable of? Pyo Wul crouched with one hand pressed against the ground, staring at her coldly. Let's find out. Only then did she realize. His hand was glowing. Too late. Energy threads surged upward from beneath the earth, coiling tightly around her legs. She froze. Trapped. Pyo Wul charged forward in a blinding flash. He seized her leg and yanked it upward, throwing her completely off balance. The old hag's eyes widened in absolute shock. She had never even imagined something like this. In that instant, Pyo Wul activated his martial art, Swift Wind. At the same time, another power ignited within him. Black lightning. Swift Wind pushed his mind to its absolute limit, accelerating his thoughts beyond reason. Black lightning flooded his body, forcing his physical abilities past their breaking point. This was his one chance, and he took it. Pyo Wul vanished. The old hag couldn't even perceive him. A moment later, a fist slammed straight into her abdomen. The impact came at the speed of sound. She never saw the attack. She never felt it coming. Blood exploded from her mouth as her body flew backward, crashing into the ground. Completely defeated, Pyo Wul stood tall, staring down at the end of his long-awaited revenge. Master! Sealran screamed as the old hag crawled weakly across the ground, blood pouring endlessly from her lips. She couldn't understand what had happened. She hadn't seen an attack. She hadn't sensed an attack. To be brought down in a single blow. Was it really not a fluke that he fought Sage Mujong on equal ground? She thought. What kind of monster did we create? At this rate, he would surpass even Sage Mujong. Desperation twisted the old hag's face. She screamed, calling out to her disciples. Sealran, Black Cloud Corps Captain. Kill him. Both of them stiffened. But they obeyed. They rushed forward. Pyo Wul looked down at her coldly. Disgusting, he said. To sacrifice 2 lives just to save your own. His eyes sharpened. Pathetic. He moved again. Do you think I'd let such a chance slip away? He brushed past the Black Cloud Corps captain in an instant, heading straight for the old hag. The captain roared and thrust his spear forward. With a mere twitch of his fingers, Pyo Wul manipulated his flying daggers. One was deflected by a hair's breadth. But it wasn't enough. 3 blades pierced straight through the captain's body. He fell, dead before he even hit the ground. Now only Sealran remained. She charged forward desperately. Stop. Pyo Wul moved effortlessly. Stop. He didn't slow. He brushed past her. No counterattack. No hesitation. He didn't even spare her a glance. Sealran froze, stunned. Why? She whispered. Why didn't he strike her? There was no answer. Pyo Wul now stood before the gravely wounded old hag. Face to face. This was the end. The revenge he had waited for 7 long years. Venomous energy seeped from his body, engulfing her completely. Her vision warped. Black snakes crawled over her skin, coiling tighter and tighter. Hallucinations born of terror and poison. She screamed, cursing him. In her eyes, Pyo-wul transformed. A massive white serpent with crimson eyes, staring down at her, waiting to devour her whole. If it weren't for you, she screamed hysterically, Sichuan would have been mine. Even at death's door, her greed remained. Pyo-wul raised his blade. With a single clean stroke, her head fell. The greedy old hag was dead. The false morality that had poisoned the Jianghu died with her. Pyo-wul stared at her lifeless body. Is that all you had to say for your last words? He turned away. Disappear from my life forever. And with that, the revenge he had carried for 7 years came to an end. The captain was not dead but heavily injured. He stood up and, along with Seo Ran, saw the dead leader of the Amei sect. The battlefield fell completely silent as everyone stared at the scene, the assassin standing tall and the abbess of the Amei sect, taken out in a single strike. The Amei disciples could not believe that their leader had been defeated in such a pathetic state. Some whispered, asking whether he was even human. Someone called him a reaper. Pyo-wul merely glanced at them. That single look made them shudder in fear. The disciples trembled, losing all motivation to fight. They believed it was impossible to defeat him. One of them, overwhelmed by terror after seeing Pyo-wul's red eyes, broke down crying and ran away. Seo Ran knew they were finished. Everyone had been completely overwhelmed by him, the assassin they had despised so much. He had cut down the leaders of both the Amei and Qingqing sects in an instant and seized control over Sichuan. She wondered what she should do now and what the future of the Amei sect would become. She looked at Pyo-wul, wanting to speak, but just as she was about to call out, something unexpected happened. The supposedly dead sage Mu Zhang began to transform, releasing an ominous energy. His appearance changed drastically. His skin burned red, his eyes turning blood-colored, and he screamed as he went berserk. His disciples cried out, asking if their master was all right, but the sage did not answer. He seized his broadsword instead. Someone pointed out in shock that the ominous energy pouring out of him was demonic energy. Everyone was stunned. The elder of the Qingqing sect had learned demonic arts. Blinded by rage, Sage Mu Zhang charged at Pyo-wul, screaming that he would kill him. Pyo-wul calmly observed his movements, which were now completely different from before, faster, sharper, and eerily similar to his own. Pyo-wul dodged his attacks and analyzed him carefully. There were no gaps, but it was clear, Mu Zhang was no longer in his right mind. The demonic energy had already invaded his consciousness. That was enough. Pyo-wul manipulated his flying daggers, forming an encirclement above his head. In an instant all the daggers attacked together. The sage was slashed and pierced repeatedly, yet he still charged forward like a madman. But it did not last long. The demonic energy corroded his body, his skin turning pale as he collapsed to the ground, breathing his last. A Qingqing Taoist stepped forward and asked Pyo-wul to stop. His expression was sincere as he rushed to Mu Zhang's side. Seeing that Mu Zhang was dying, he asked why he had learned demonic arts. In a faint voice, Mu Zhang replied that everything he had done was for the sake of the Qingqing sect. With those final words he died. Holding him gently, the Taoist spoke softly, saying that it had been foolish. The honor of the Qingqing sect that Mu Zhang had tried so desperately to protect had been completely destroyed because of those demonic arts. With the leaders of both sects dead, a single thought spread through everyone's mind. Sage Mu Zhang of the Qingqing sect had practiced demonic arts, and Abbess Guhua of the Amei sect had cowardly stabbed the Qingqing sect in the back. And even after all that, they still could not take down a single assassin. From this day onward, the flow of Sichuan Murim would change because of one man. After some time, Seo Ran approached Pyo-wul and respectfully called him Sir Pyo. She asked if he would allow the Amei sect to retrieve their leader's corpse and bring it back to the mountain. Seeing her bow before him, one disciple shouted in protest, asking how she could bow to the murderer of their sect leader. Seo Ran shot the disciple a fierce glare, silencing her instantly. She understood that seeking revenge now was impossible. They had to find a way to survive. She bowed deeply before Pyo-wul once again. The Qingqing representative followed suit, asking for permission to collect Mu Zhang's corpse and retreat. He also bowed deeply. All eyes turned to Pyo-wul, waiting for his response. After a moment of silence, Pyo-wul coldly asked whether, if he let them go, they would scheme revenge one day, just as he once had. Seo Ran hurriedly swore upon her name that the Amei sect would never seek revenge. The Qingqing sect made the same vow, declaring that all grudges would end here. Pyo-wul asked how he was supposed to believe them. Both bowed again, promising with complete sincerity. Seeing their resolve, Pyo-wul finally agreed. Looking up at the clear sky, he told them to leave. With this incident, all of Sichuan Murim fell into decline. The Amei and Qingqing sects, which had fought fiercely for power, ceased all activity. Other sects shut themselves away, focusing only on recovery. Countless people suffered immense losses. Yet not a single person dared to even dream of seeking revenge against Pyo-wul, the legend known as the Reaper. Sometime later, on a clear and sunny day, Pyo-wul could be seen casually napping on a small floating boat in the middle of a lake. Tang Sochu called out his name. Pyo-wul glanced over and smiled faintly. For the first time in a long while, he felt at peace. However, as time passed, news spread that a single assassin had razed the entire Sichuan Murim to the ground. Certain forces, intrigued by who he was, began to move. New upheavals were bound to follow.